Here's your wrestling news for May 3rd, 2023, and we're kicking off today with Roman Reigns, who unified the WWE and Universal Championships in April of last year at WrestleMania 38. Given that Reigns would sign a new contract not long after, one that resulted in him competing far less, many have said the decision to unify the titles was the wrong call. So why exactly did it happen? Fightful Select reports that just a few weeks before the match, WWE had no intention of unifying the two championships, and it wasn't until WWE Day 1 that the decision was made. When Reigns contracted COVID-19, which resulted in his Universal title match with Lesnar being scrapped, WWE made the decision to delay the match until WrestleMania, and realized the stakes had to be raised given that the pair had faced off plenty of times for one title before. Addressing reports of the title being split, Fightful added that there were at one point plans for Cody Rhodes to challenge either Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 39, but those plans were scrapped shortly after. If Reigns had never contracted COVID, then the titles would have likely never been unified, and therefore the upcoming World Heavyweight Championship would have never been created, and it's interesting to think what else would have been much different. Over to NXT now, as following this year's draft, fans were curious as to how the Gold brand would react to several superstars, as well as some champions, being called up. One name called up to Raw as part of the draft is NXT Women's Champion Indi Hartwell, whose time with the Gold brand has come to an end. In the closing segment of the show, Hartwell announced that she has relinquished the championship and will be heading to Raw next Monday without the Gold. As a result, a tournament will begin next week in an effort to crown a new NXT Women's Champion, with the finals and the new champion being crowned at NXT Battleground on Sunday, May 28th. There's no word on who will be in this tournament, but with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn also being called up, albeit to SmackDown, don't expect either woman in the tournament. As for Hartwell, it may be some time before we see her wrestle, as she disclosed suffering a high ankle sprain during last week's title match, and we are wishing the former champ a speedy recovery. When Indi Hartwell appears on Raw, she won't be the NXT Women's Champion, but WWE already has plans for her on the Red brand. It wasn't too long ago that Hartwell was part of The Way in NXT, and the group recently reunited at Stand and Deliver, and fans will be seeing much more of the group together on screen. That's according to WRKD Wrestling, who reports that Hartwell was drafted to Raw to reunite The Way, and that there are preliminary plans in place for that to happen. Of course, this won't be a full reunion, as Way alum Austin Theory is taking the US title to SmackDown, and odds are he wouldn't be interested in reuniting anyway. As a faction, the group of Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Dexter Lumis, and Hartwell had a lot of success in NXT and won over fans. And are you excited to see The Way make their way to Raw? More from NXT now, as Jacy Jayne and Gigi Dolan were once the best of friends, but Toxic Attraction ended when Jayne turned her back on Dolan in February. Now the former NXT Women's Tag Team Champions are fierce rivals, and things went much further than you'd expect during this week's show. During their match, Jayne was busted open the hard way and bled profusely from the forehead, but was still able to wrestle. Given that the match ended shortly after, we expect that the two were instructed to rush the finish, but post-match, Jayne grabbed her former tag team partner and brutalized her outside of the ring. Jacy Jayne wasn't attended to during the match, and they let things slide, in an interesting move considering that WWE typically pounces on any wrestlers who have been cut to stop the bleeding. Jayne certainly proved her toughness this week, and after being busted open the hard way, the feud between her and Dolan is only going to get uglier from here. In August 2020, Philip Thomas broke into the home of Sonya Deville in an attempt to kidnap the WWE superstar, who was in the building with her friend Mandy Rose at the time. Thankfully, Rose and Deville escaped, and Thomas was detained shortly after, but he will now serve some serious prison time. In an update on the case from PW Insider, Thomas pled guilty to the 4 charges against him, those being armed burglary of a dwelling, attempted armed kidnapping, aggravated stalking with a weapon, and criminal mischief. Thomas was sentenced to 15 years in prison, followed by 15 years of probation and 50 hours of community service, and has been given credit for 974 days already served. Thomas is also assessed court costs and has a recommended curfew of 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. once he is out of prison, and cannot directly or indirectly contact either Deville or her family. This terrifying ordeal led to Deville taking months away from TV, and while she would return to programming that December, it'd be close to a year before she wrestled again. Hopefully this sentencing brings an end to this ordeal for Deville and for Mandy Rose, as nobody should have to go through what they experienced less than 3 years ago. Over to AEW, as yesterday saw pre-sale tickets made available for All In, and to say the show is proving to be popular is a huge understatement. In the first few hours, AEW sold over 35,000 tickets to the London show, with one of our staff grabbing one of the much-coveted tickets, but some aren't willing to accept the show's success. ESPN reporter Mike Coppinger took to Twitter and claimed that he had heard that Wembley Stadium is scaled for only a 40K crowd rather than the 90,000 the venue can hold, which got a response from some of the names in AEW. In a fiery response, Tony Khan said that Coppinger's claim was lies and a load of crap, and insinuated that the ESPN reporter had received false information from WWE CEO Nick Khan. Dash Wheeler also had a response, saying he's been hearing this guy is a clown, and to mock Coppinger said that he, like the ESPN reporter, could not disclose his sources. Based on the ticket sales in the first day, All In will be AEW's highest attended show by a considerable margin. And what matches are you hoping to see when AEW arrives in Wembley? In 1997, WWE signed a young broadcaster called Michael Cole, who for over a quarter of a century has been calling the action on both Raw and SmackDown. Cole is one of the longest tenured employees in the history of WWE and has called the action for many iconic matches, but he knows that his time behind the desk can't last forever. Speaking on the Pat McAfee show to wish the NFL punter a happy birthday, Cole was asked about if he has retirement plans and admitted he has a timeline for when he wants to slow down. He explained, "I'm gonna have to stop or else. I'm gonna be married 30 years, so if I want it to last longer than that, I'm probably going to have to stop at some point, but no, it won't be anytime soon. I still got a lot of work to do with this company. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff to do, still a lot of shows to call. I told somebody that I would, I'm 56 now, so 60 sounds like a pretty good age to maybe slow down a little bit." Cole is best known as a commentator, but has had a handful of matches for WWE, with The Undertaker infamously shaking his head and questioning what this business had become after Cole's match at WrestleMania 27. Cole has been with WWE for so long, it's hard to imagine what the company's on-screen product will be like without him. But that will have to happen eventually for the former war correspondent turned wrestling announcer. And we're ending with more from NXT, as this week's show saw Scrypts and Axiom face off, and after Axiom got the win, he also decided to take Scrypts' mask. While WWE cameras didn't show Scrypts' face on TV, everybody already knows that it's Reggie, and even Booker T said on commentary, "You know who that is." Obviously, this will change up the Scrypts character considerably, and what do you want to see next from the NXT superstar? Sound off in the comments.